That night, after seeing Ryan again, I lay in the familiar bed in the Seattle house but couldn't fall asleep for a long time. My phone lit up. Nathaniel had sent a photo. It was a shot of his snow-covered backyard in Colorado, with a message attached. "Wish you were here. I just tried throwing snowballs by myself. So boring." I laughed. My fingers moved over the keyboard. "If I were there, you'd definitely hit me right in the face." Less than half a minute later, Nathaniel replied, "True, but afterward I'd buy you hot chocolate to apologize." "That's called strategy." I shook my head, laughing. Ryan used to be very romantic. Nathaniel was the complete opposite. He didn't say sweet things, didn't try to impress. But somehow, in some strange way, just a few minutes of texting with Nathaniel always lifted my mood. I suddenly remembered what Ryan had said before we broke up. Asterisk, "Don't miss out on that person." Asterisk, quickly shook my head. No, I thought too much already. Nathaniel only saw me as a friend, a very close friend. Winter break ended. The day I returned to Cedar Hills, snow still blanketed both sides of the road. The moment I stepped into the dorm, I heard running footsteps in the hallway. "Gavin!" Nathaniel rushed over and threw his arms around me, so hard my suitcase nearly fell to the floor. "Slow down. I missed you." He said it so naturally, as if it were the most ordinary sentence in the world. I froze for a few seconds before hugging him back. "I missed it too." I stopped halfway. Nathaniel let go. "Missed what?" "I missed the dorm." Nathaniel narrowed his eyes. "You're lying." "I am not." "You're blushing." "It's cold." "The more you talk, the more suspicious you sound." I gave his shoulder a light shove. "Let's go inside." Nathaniel laughed loudly. That moment passed very quickly, but that sudden hug stayed in my head for days afterward. The new semester began with a required course that had the whole school groaning. Project Communications. The professor split students into pairs. When we heard our names, mine and Nathaniel's, paired together, we both sighed with relief. "At least we're working with someone we know," I said. Nathaniel nodded. "You handle the planning. I'll present." "Why?" "Because you hate public speaking." "And you?" "I like talking." "Deal." We worked together so smoothly that the professor praised us in front of the class more than once. One day after class, the professor called me over. "Gavin." "Yes." "How long have you and Nathaniel known each other?" "About half a year." He smiled. "I thought you two grew up together." "Why?" "The way you two understand each other is so natural." I turned to look at Nathaniel waiting outside the door. Natural. It really was natural. Just by looking at each other's eyes, we could almost tell what the other was thinking. One afternoon in late February, Nathaniel dragged me to the basketball court. "Teach me how to shoot." "Me? Yeah.
I'm terrible."
"That's fine." Nathaniel smiled. "I like learning from you." We stayed there for almost 2 hours. The result? I missed almost every shot. Nathaniel laughed for almost the entire 2 hours. "Are you doing this on purpose?" "I wouldn't dare." "You're laughing too much." "Because you're adorable." The air suddenly went quiet. Nathaniel realized what he'd just said too. We looked at each other. Then he scratched his head. "I mean, I know." I tried to act calm, but my ears were burning. That night, I lay staring at the ceiling for a long time. One careless sentence, and it had thrown my heart into chaos. In early March, the school organized a weekend camping trip to the nearby mountains. Nathaniel signed up right away. "You're coming too." "Me? Yeah. I don't like hiking." "I'll be there." "That reason isn't very convincing." Nathaniel smiled. "There'll be cookies too." "Fine." "See. In the end, you got beaten by food." The morning we set off, the sky was a rare, clear blue. A bus carried more than 30 students to the campsite. After 3 hours of hiking, I was gasping for breath. Nathaniel, meanwhile, was completely unfazed. "You're a monster."
No.
"I'm just used to it. And I'm about to die." "You said that an hour ago." "I'm still alive." "That's good news." At the summit, the whole valley appeared below us under the sunset. Everyone took out their phones to take pictures. Nathaniel stood beside me. The view's beautiful. Yeah. But. He turned to look at me. I like this trip more because you're here. I froze. Nathaniel kept looking out at the horizon as if he'd just said something completely ordinary. As for me, my heart was pounding so loudly I could barely hear the wind. That evening, everyone gathered around the campfire. Someone was playing guitar. Someone was telling ghost stories. A girl suddenly suggested, "Let's play truth or dare." The group agreed immediately. The first few rounds were pretty ordinary, until the glass bottle stopped in front of Nathaniel. "What do you pick?" someone asked. "Truth." A girl smiled mischievously. "Okay. Tell us about your first love." The group cheered. Nathaniel rested his elbows on his knees, staring at the flickering fire. "My first love was a really good person." "Was he handsome?" someone asked. Nathaniel smiled. "Yeah." The whole group suddenly went silent. Someone blinked. "You just said." Nathaniel nodded calmly. "That's right. I used to like a guy." The air went quiet for a few seconds. Then a guy laughed. "So what happened? Go on." Nathaniel exhaled softly. "I never told him." "Why not?" "Because I was afraid that if I said it, we couldn't even stay friends." I sat across from Nathaniel. The firelight reflected in his eyes. I don't know why. I suddenly remembered a conversation from months ago. I used to like someone, but I never told them. So it turned out, the person Nathaniel liked was a guy. My heart pounded hard. Not because Nathaniel was gay or bisexual, but because, for the first time, I realized there was a possibility I had never dared to consider before. Maybe the person he liked wasn't someone from the past, but me. The thought came very fast. Then I immediately pushed it away. No, don't fool yourself. I'd already been hurt once from misreading someone's feelings. I wasn't going to repeat that. And yet, from that night on, every time Nathaniel happened to look at me a little too long, or unconsciously brushed my shoulder, or smiled at me, I couldn't stop myself from wondering, what if? Just what if? Am I really in his heart? After the camping trip, nothing changed between me and Nathaniel. At least not on the surface. We still ate breakfast together. Still fought over the coffee machine in the dorm. Still argued over whose turn it was to take the trash downstairs. Everything was the same as before. Only I was different. Ever since the night Nathaniel admitted his first love had been a guy, I started paying attention to him more without even meaning to. I noticed he liked wearing navy blue hoodies more than any other color. Noticed he always twisted the silver ring on his finger whenever he was stressed. Noticed that whenever he was thinking hard, he'd unconsciously bite his bottom lip. And especially, I noticed the way Nathaniel looked at me. That gaze was always so gentle. Sometimes I felt it lingered on me longer than it needed to. But then I'd remind myself, don't overthink it. One afternoon in late March, Nathaniel and I went to the supermarket for groceries. The list had only a few items: milk, eggs,
Pasta.
cereal. And yet the two of us took almost an hour. The reason was Nathaniel kept standing in front of the ice cream freezer. "I want to try a new flavor." "You say that every week." "Because there's a new flavor every week. Don't you know the freezer in our room is already full of ice cream?"
Ido.
"And you're still buying more?" Nathaniel smiled with total innocence. That was last week's Nathaniel. Today is a new Nathaniel. I rubbed my forehead. "You're hopeless. You're still here with me, though." "That's exactly the problem." We both burst out laughing in the middle of the aisle, making an old lady passing by smile along with us. In the end, Nathaniel still bought 2 extra tubs of ice cream. 1 caramel, 1 mint. "Why 2? One's for you." "I never said I liked it." "But I know you do." "Know what?" "You'll eat it." And sure enough, that night I ate almost half the tub. Nathaniel just pointed his spoon at me. See, I had no comeback. The weather slowly grew warmer. The campus began to fill with cherry blossoms. One Sunday morning, Nathaniel pulled back the curtains and said, "No studying today." "Why?" "Because it's nice out." "That's not a real reason." "It is to me." 20 minutes later, he'd already dragged me to the park by the lake. Students lay reading on the grass. Someone was playing guitar. Someone was jogging. Nathaniel lay flat on the grass, hands behind his head. "I love days like this." "Why?" "You don't have to do anything. You just need to know the person you care about is right beside you." I turned to look at him. Nathaniel was still gazing up at the sky. Maybe that sentence didn't mean anything special, but my heart refused to listen to reason. That afternoon, we rented a small rowboat to paddle around the lake. Nathaniel was the main rower. I was in charge of being a passenger. "Aren't you going to help?" "I'm helping by cheering you on." "What kind of cheering?" "You row beautifully." Nathaniel laughed. "Thanks. Even though I can't tell the difference. You're such a pain." In the middle of the lake, Nathaniel suddenly stopped paddling. "What's wrong?" "Just stay quiet for a moment." The lake's surface was perfectly still. Only the sound of birds and wind remained. Nathaniel said softly, "Gavin, have you ever thought about where you'll live after graduation?" "I haven't." "What about you?" "Me neither. I just know. If I could, I'd want to live in the same city as the person who matters most to me." I smiled. "Family?" Nathaniel was quiet for a few seconds. "Yeah," he answered very softly. I don't know why, but at that moment I felt like he was about to say something else, then stopped. In early April, our department held a charity fundraiser. Students were encouraged to dress formally. It was the first time I saw Nathaniel in a suit. When he stepped out of the dorm bathroom, I froze. The dark blue suit fit him perfectly. His hair was neatly styled. The silver watch on his wrist made him look even more grown up. Nathaniel looked at me. "Well, doesn't suit me?" Took me a few seconds to find my voice.
No.
"It suits you very well." Nathaniel smiled. "You look good too." "Me? Yeah. I mean it." I looked in the mirror. My own suit was completely ordinary, but the way Nathaniel looked at me made me feel like I'd just become a better version of myself. The party took place in the main hall. Soft yellow lights, jazz music playing gently. After a while, the organizers put on slow music. Many couples started stepping onto the dance floor. Nathaniel, holding a glass of water, nudged my shoulder. "Want to try?" "I don't know how to dance." "Neither do I." "Then let's not." Nathaniel smiled. "That's exactly why it'll be fun." Before I could react, he'd already grabbed my wrist and pulled me onto the floor. "Nathaniel, calm down. I'm scared too." The two of us stood in the middle of the floor, looking at each other awkwardly. "What do I do with my hands?" "I don't know." "Feet?" "Same." We both burst out laughing. In the end, we just swayed to the music. Both clumsy and ridiculous. A teacher walked by and laughed. "Is this a new style of dancing?" Nathaniel answered immediately. "Yes, it's called freestyle." The whole hall laughed. I laughed until my stomach hurt. It was probably the worst dance in the world, but also the happiest dance I'd ever had. When the song ended, Nathaniel still hadn't let go of my hand. He looked down. "Sorry." "Forgot." He started to pull his hand back. I don't know why. For the first time, I was the one who held his hand a moment longer. Just one short beat. Then I let go. Nathaniel looked up at me. His eyes were full of surprise. As for me, my heart was pounding so fast I didn't dare look him straight in the eye. The whole walk back to the dorm, neither of us said a word. Not out of embarrassment, but because both of us were trying to understand our own feelings. That night, I opened the notebook I'd carried with me ever since leaving Seattle. The first pages were filled with lines about Ryan. I flipped to a blank page and wrote down exactly one sentence. Asterisk, maybe, "I've really fallen for someone again." Asterisk. I looked at that line for a long time, then smiled. This time, the smile no longer carried any pain like before, just a bit of nervousness. and a fragile kind of hope. What I didn't know was, on the bed across from mine, Nathaniel was awake too. He opened his phone, looking at the photo of the two of us from the party that night. His finger gently touched the screen. Then he whispered, quiet enough that only he could hear, "When will you finally realize that the person I've liked all along is you, Gavin?" The next morning, I woke up earlier than usual. The early spring sunlight slipped through the curtain gap, casting a long bright streak across the wooden floor. Nathaniel was still asleep. One arm hung off the edge of the bed, his brown hair messy from sleep. I laughed. A few months ago, I would have just thought Nathaniel was an interesting friend. But now, I had to admit something. Just seeing him every morning already put me in a much better mood. I quietly closed the door and went down to the cafeteria to get coffee. When I came back, Nathaniel was sitting on his bed, wrapped in a blanket, eyes still half closed. "Where'd you go?" "To get coffee." "Where's mine?" "I didn't know you were awake." Nathaniel clutched his chest, pretending to be heartbroken. "Gavin."
I'm disappointed.
"I'll go get you one." He immediately smiled. "Knew you cared about me." I shook my head. "That's not it. It's because if you don't get coffee, you'll complain all day." Nathaniel propped his chin on his hand. "You remember all my habits." I paused. It was true. I knew which coffee Nathaniel liked. Knew he always added 2 packets of sugar. Knew he hated almond milk. Knew he'd be happier if there was a waffle every morning. When had I started remembering all that? Even I didn't know. The semester continued with busy days. But amid the assignments and exams, we kept the habit of setting aside Friday nights for something fun. Some weeks it was watching a movie. Some weeks it was bowling. Some weeks it was simply driving out to the countryside to look at stars. Nathaniel called it best friend dates. I always pretended to make a face. "That name sounds weird. Got a better one?" "No." "See? Then we keep it." I don't know why, but every time I heard Nathaniel use the word date, my heart beat a little faster. One evening in late April, we went to the movie theater in town. After the film ended, it suddenly started raining. Neither of us had brought an umbrella. Nathaniel took off his jacket and held it up to cover us both. "What are you doing?" "Running." "Back to the dorm?"
No.
"To the cafe up ahead." The rain grew heavier and heavier. We laughed as we ran, dodging puddles. By the time we got there, we were both nearly soaked. The staff inside looked at us and laughed. "You two look like you just ran a race in the rain." Nathaniel replied, "We came in second." "Who came in first?" Nathaniel looked at me. "The rain." All 3 of us burst out laughing. The cafe wasn't crowded. Outside, rain pattered against the glass. Nathaniel ordered 2 hot chocolates. "I thought you liked coffee."
Ido.
"But today you're cold." I looked at him. "How do you know?" Nathaniel shrugged. "Your nose is completely red." I reached up to touch it. It really was freezing. Nathaniel pushed his cup of hot chocolate toward me. "Take it. It's warm." I wrapped both hands around the cup. The heat slowly spread through my fingertips. "I noticed something," Nathaniel said. "What?" "Every time you're thinking hard, you bite your lip." I startled. "You noticed that too?" "Yeah. I notice a lot of things about you." I looked straight into Nathaniel's eyes. He looked back. Neither of us said anything more. The air suddenly felt strange. Right then, Nathaniel's phone rang. The name on the screen was Olivia. Nathaniel looked at the screen for a few seconds, then answered. "Hey, Olivia." I bent my head and stirred my hot chocolate. I don't know why, but something inside me felt uncomfortable. The call only lasted a few minutes. After hanging up, Nathaniel turned to me.
Sorry.
"An old friend." "Yeah. From high school." She wanted me to look over her resume. I nodded. "Oh." Nathaniel tilted his head. "What's wrong?" "Me? Yeah. You don't look happy." "I am." Nathaniel smiled faintly. "Gavin, you're lying again." I avoided his gaze. "It's nothing." Nathaniel rested his elbows on the table. "Are you?" Jealous. I nearly choked. What? Just asking.
No.
Why would I be jealous? Nathaniel looked at me for a few seconds, then smiled. Okay. I believe you. I don't know why, but his I believe you sounded even more suspicious. That night, after we got back to the room, I stood in front of the mirror for a long time. Jealous, I muttered. No.
Impossible.
But if I wasn't jealous, why did I feel a sinking disappointment when Nathaniel was on the phone with Olivia? Why was I curious who she was? And why, when I found out she was just an old friend, did I let out a sigh of relief? Covered my face. Oh no. For the first time, I couldn't fool myself anymore. I liked Nathaniel, not as a friend, but as one guy having feelings for another guy. That thought made me both happy and afraid. What if Nathaniel didn't feel the same way? What if it was all just my imagination? What if, after I said it, even our friendship would be lost? Right at that moment, the door opened. Nathaniel walked in. You're still not asleep? Not yet. Me neither. He sat down on the edge of the bed across from mine. We were both quiet. A moment later, Nathaniel suddenly spoke. Gavin. If I liked someone, but I didn't know if they liked me back. What do you think I should do? My heart felt like it stopped. My mind went blank. I tried to keep my voice normal. If it were me, I'd say it. Nathaniel looked at me for a long time. Really? Yeah. At least. You won't have to regret it later. Nathaniel nodded slightly. The smile on his lips was strangely tender. Thank you. I didn't know that, in that very moment, Nathaniel had made a decision that would completely change the relationship between the two of us. And in just a few more days, another rain would come, this time not to soak us, but to witness two hearts finally finding the courage to say what they'd hidden for almost a year. 3 days later, the town of Cedar Hills settled into a gloomy afternoon. Gray clouds had covered the sky since early on, and the wind carried the smell of damp earth, signaling a big storm was on the way. I just finished my last class when I got a text from Nathaniel. Free tonight. I smiled. Yeah. The next message came almost instantly. Come somewhere with me. Where? It's a secret. I laughed. Nathaniel always loved surprises. At exactly 7 that evening, he was already standing outside the dorm. Nathaniel wore his familiar navy blue jacket, hands tucked in his pockets. Are you planning to kidnap me? Depends. If you resist, I'll have to figure something out. That sounds terrifying. Let's go. We walked for about 15 minutes and arrived at the lake on the north side of town. Place I'd never been before. A small wooden dock stretched out over the water. Tall pine trees lined both sides. It started to drizzle. Why come here? I asked. Nathaniel leaned his arms on the wooden railing. The first time I came to Cedar Hills, I found this place. Whenever I have something to think about, I come here. I stood beside him. Neither of us said anything. We only heard the gentle ripple of water on the lake. After a while, Nathaniel took a deep breath. Gavin. I want to tell you a story. Okay. He smiled very softly. Back in freshman year of high school, I liked someone. He was very kind, quiet, blushed easily when laughing. I thought I'd probably never meet anyone who made me feel that way again in my whole life. I listened in silence. But I never told him. Then he transferred schools. That was it. I asked softly, do you regret it? Nathaniel nodded. A lot. From then on I made myself a promise. If I ever liked someone again, I wouldn't let myself regret it one more time. He turned to look at me, his eyes more serious than ever. I've met that person. My heart started pounding. It's... Nathaniel stepped closer. The person who makes me laugh more. Who I want to be near more. Who I want to take care of. Who I want to go through autumns and winters with. And many years after that. The distance between us was now only a few steps. I almost didn't dare to breathe. Nathaniel. He smiled. This time, I'm not going to hide anymore. Gavin, I like you. Not like as a friend. Not just fondness. But love. I've loved you for a long time. Maybe since the moment you smiled at me in the dorm room that very first day. The rain started falling harder. I stood frozen. For almost a year. I had imagined this moment many times. But now that it was actually happening, my mind was completely blank. Nathaniel smiled sadly. You don't have to answer right away. If you don't feel the same way, then, I stepped forward, and threw my arms around him. Nathaniel stiffened. My voice trembled. I thought. It was only me feeling this way. Nathaniel slowly hugged me back. You're saying that means. I nodded. I like you too.
No.
I think. I love you. Nathaniel laughed. A laugh mixed with the sound of rain. Then, I felt his hands gently lift my face. If I kiss you right now, is it too fast? I looked into the blue eyes in front of me. For the first time, I no longer felt afraid. I smiled. I think. We've waited long enough already. Nathaniel leaned in very slowly, so I'd have time to pull back if I wanted to. But I didn't pull back. Our lips met in a kiss as soft as the season's first summer rain. Not passionate, not rushed, only gentle, warm, and sincere. When we pulled apart, Nathaniel rested his forehead lightly against mine. Hello, boyfriend. I smiled until my eyes stung. Hello, boyfriend. On the way back to the dorm, we walked hand in hand. Nathaniel kept looking down at our intertwined fingers and laughing to himself. What are you laughing about?
I'm checking.
Checking what? Whether this is a dream. I was thinking the same thing. Nathaniel gently squeezed my hand. If it is a dream, don't wake me up. The moment we stepped into the room, Nathaniel immediately looked at the teddy bear on the bed. He picked it up. Thank you. I laughed. You're thanking the teddy bear? It guarded the place really well. From now on, you're back. It's retired. I shook my head. You're such a dork. Nathaniel set the bear aside and looked at me. Hey, boyfriend. Hearing those two words from his mouth, my heart raced again. What's wrong? Nathaniel beamed. Nothing. I just wanted to try saying it. I love it. I laughed. Say it as many times as you want. Really? Yeah. Nathaniel lit up like a kid. Boyfriend. 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 That's enough.
No.
I waited almost a year to get to say it. I have to make up for lost time. I covered my face, laughing until my stomach hurt. Maybe that was the happiest night of my youth. I had moved to Cedar Hills just to forget someone. But life had given me a far greater gift. A guy who always made ordinary days feel special. Someone who, just by being near, made me feel like I belonged here. And I knew our story had only just truly begun. The next morning, I woke up with a strange feeling. Everything in the room looked exactly like the day before. The messy desk, the teddy bear on the chair, the early sunlight slipping through the window. Only one thing had changed. Nathaniel was no longer just my roommate. He was my boyfriend. That thought made the corner of my mouth curl up without me even meaning to. Right then, Nathaniel walked out of the bathroom, a towel still hanging over his shoulder. The moment he saw me, he smiled brightly. Good morning, boyfriend. I laughed. Good morning. Nathaniel put his hands on his hips. Not fair. What? I called you boyfriend. You just said good morning. I shook my head. Fine. Good morning, boyfriend. Nathaniel clutched his chest dramatically. That's it. I don't even need breakfast today. I'm already full. Why? Hearing you say that is enough. You're so cheesy. You're just noticing now? Loving Nathaniel was nothing like anything I'd ever imagined. I used to think that once two people started dating, everything would change a lot. But in reality, we were still ourselves. Nathaniel still overslept. I still had to pull back the curtains to wake him up. He still forgot to bring a pen. I still always kept a spare one in my backpack. Only one thing was different. Sometimes, Nathaniel would secretly hold my hand under the desk during class, or sneak in a quick hug when the hallway was empty. Once, while we were waiting in line for coffee, he leaned close to my ear. I found something out. What? You blush really fast. Because of who? Me. You already know, why ask? Nathaniel laughed, delighted with himself. We decided not to come out about dating just yet. Not out of shame, but because we wanted to keep this relationship peaceful for a while longer. At school, we still acted the same as before. Only the way we looked at each other was different. The way we smiled was different. And the texts every night were a lot longer. Some days, even though we were only a few feet apart in the same room, Nathaniel would still text, "Boyfriend." I'd reply, "What? Nothing. Just wanted to say it." I'd shake my head and laugh. Then text back, "Dork." Nathaniel's phone would buzz. He'd look at the screen, then look up and smile at me. A smile that made our small room feel strangely warm. In late May, the school held a sports day. Nathaniel took part in the interdepartment basketball tournament. I sat in the stands with Emily. Emily looked down at the court. "Nate's really good." "Yeah. He practices a lot." Emily turned to me. "Do you know that every time he's playing, Nathaniel always looks up at the stands first?" "Why?" Emily smiled. "To check if you're there." I froze. "You know?" Emily shrugged. "Know what?" "About the two of you." I widened my eyes. Emily burst out laughing. "You two thought you were hiding it well?" The way Nathaniel looks at you. Even a blind person could probably tell." My face turned bright red. Emily said gently, "He's liked you for a long time. He even asked me once what to do if he confessed and got rejected." I turned back to the court. Nathaniel had just made another three-pointer. On reflex, he immediately looked up at the stands. Our eyes met. He smiled. I smiled too. In that moment, my eyes suddenly stung. Turned out that all the time I'd spent stuck on the past, someone had quietly been waiting for me in the future. Nathaniel's team won the championship. Right after receiving his medal, he ran straight up to the stands. "Boyfriend." Nathaniel hugged me in front of the cheering crowd. I startled. "You?" Nathaniel blinked. "Sorry. I forgot." Emily laughed loudly. "Nate, the whole school already knows." Nathaniel looked around. Sure enough, instead of surprise, everyone just laughed and clapped. A guy even shouted, "Finally you two are dating." Laughter rippled through the stands. Nathaniel scratched his head. "Were we that obvious?" Emily answered right away. "Since about last fall." Nathaniel turned to me. "Turns out we were the only two who didn't know." I laughed. "Seems like it." That night, we walked around the lake like we always did. Nathaniel suddenly took my hand. This time, no need to be sneaky anymore. I looked at our fingers laced together, then looked at him. "How does it feel?" Nathaniel smiled. "Relieving." "Same for me." An elderly couple walked by. The man smiled at us. "You two look very happy." Nathaniel answered, "Yes, we're really, truly happy." I squeezed his hand gently. Maybe happiness was sometimes that simple. No need for grand promises. No need for overly romantic gestures. Just holding the hand of the person you love on an ordinary afternoon. And knowing you no longer have to hide your own feelings. Time kept quietly passing. Summer was approaching. Freshman year of college was about to come to a close. But neither Nathaniel nor I knew that the biggest tests of love don't come when two people first begin. They come when life forces you to choose between your dreams, your career, and the person you love. Our first summer together arrived faster than I expected. The Cedar Hills campus grew quiet as most students went home. Nathaniel and I decided to stay in town, partly because we'd both signed up for extra summer credits, partly because neither of us wanted to go long distance so soon. "I found a job," Nathaniel said as he walked into the room. "Doing what?" "Part-time at a sporting goods store." "Nice. What about you?" "I just got hired at the bookstore." Nathaniel raised his hand. High five. Our hands met. Adults going to work. I still feel like a kid. Got a boyfriend and you're still a kid? Nathaniel grinned widely. Having a boyfriend means I get to be even more of a kid. The bookstore I worked at sat right on the corner of the town's main street. Not very big, but very cozy. The owner was a woman in her 60s named Margaret. On my first day, she looked at the wallpaper on my phone. It was a photo of Nathaniel smiling by the lake. She smiled. Boyfriend? I felt a little embarrassed. Yes, Margaret nodded. He has very gentle eyes. That's good. Hold on to someone with eyes like that. I laughed. Why? She arranged books on the shelf. People can be very good at hiding their feelings with words. But the eyes are harder to fake. He looks at you like you're the most precious thing in the world. I stood still for a few seconds. That night, when Nathaniel came to pick me up after my shift, I looked at him longer than usual. Something on my face?
No.
Then why are you staring like that? I'm looking at your eyes. Nathaniel burst out laughing. And the verdict? I think Margaret was right. Huh. Never mind. I took his hand. Let's go get dinner. Nathaniel looked at me, puzzled, but smiled anyway. The summer days passed slowly. Mornings, work. Afternoons, study. Evenings, cooking together. Honestly, I did most of the cooking. Nathaniel was in charge of tasting. Once, while I was stir-frying noodles, he sneaked a piece of beef. Hey, I'm doing quality control. You've checked 5 times already. Safety first. I turned my back for a moment to grab a plate. Turned back. The plate of beef was already half gone. Nathaniel! He immediately pointed at the teddy bear sitting on the chair. It ate it.
I'm innocent.
I laughed so hard I had to lean on the counter. Since when does a teddy bear eat meat? Nathaniel answered, totally calm. It's growing. On weekends, we'd often drive out of town. Sometimes to a lavender field. Sometimes just to sit on a hill watching the sunset. Nathaniel loved taking photos. His phone was almost entirely full of pictures of me. You take too many. Because you're photogenic. Not at all. Nathaniel held up the screen for me to see. In the picture, I was bent over reading a book under a tree. Sunlight filtering through the leaves fell across my hair. I stared at it, stunned. Pretty, right? Nathaniel asked. I'm not that pretty. Nathaniel shook his head. You just can't see it. But I can. I turned to look at him. Nathaniel never said flowery things. But every sentence he said softened my heart a little more. One evening in early July, we sat on the dorm roof. Nathaniel pointed up at the sky. Shooting star. I looked up just in time to see a streak of light pass by. Make a wish. I don't believe in that. Just try it. I'm not telling you what I wished. Nathaniel smiled. Me neither. We both closed our eyes for a few seconds, then looked at each other. What did you wish for? I said I'm not telling. Maybe it's the same as mine.
No.
I'm keeping it secret. Years later, Nathaniel finally admitted it. His wish that night had been exactly one sentence. Asterisk. I hope Gavin will stay by my side for a very long time. Asterisk. As for my wish, it had been. Asterisk. I hope I'll be brave enough to build a future with Nathaniel. Asterisk. Neither of us knew it then, but our 2 wishes were actually more alike than we ever imagined. Heading into sophomore year, life began to get busier. Assignments got harder. Schedules got fuller. Nathaniel was chosen as a teaching assistant for one of his professors. I became an editor for the student newspaper. Some days we only saw each other close to midnight. One night, I came back to the room and found Nathaniel asleep, slumped over his desk. His laptop was still open. On the desk were 2 food containers. One was almost empty. The other was untouched. A sticky note was stuck on top. Boyfriend, don't skip meals. I fell asleep first. I looked at Nathaniel. He was sleeping soundly. I gently draped an extra blanket over his shoulders, then leaned down and kissed his forehead softly. Thank you. I whispered, maybe this was the love I'd always been looking for. Not grand promises, but having someone who always remembered to buy your meal, who always reminded you to sleep early, who always saved you the better portion, and who always quietly took care of you, even when they themselves were exhausted. At the start of the new semester, Nathaniel's department held a statewide media design competition. First prize was an internship at a major company in New York. Nathaniel received an invitation to participate. I happily threw my arms around him. This is an amazing opportunity. Nathaniel didn't smile back. What's wrong? If I win, I might have to go to New York for an internship for almost a year. I froze. New York and Cedar Hills, a distance of nearly 4,000 kilometers. Nathaniel looked at me for a long time. I haven't decided yet. I took both his hands in mine. Nathaniel, you have to enter. But
No.
I don't want you to regret it later. Nathaniel lowered his head. And what about us? I took a deep breath. I don't know what the future holds. But I know I don't want to be the reason you give up on your dream. Nathaniel pulled me into a tight hug. I love you. I love you too. For the first time since we'd been together, I felt afraid. Not afraid of falling out of love, but afraid that life was about to test our love in a way neither of us had ever prepared for. And that feeling turned out to be right.